Some people may actually hate to hear this, but the young generation will never vote liberal again.
On the border. Mary.
Thanks, Caroline. I have two questions on far-left violence.
Sure.
The first one, the president said yesterday that the bullet hit Charlie, but it was aimed at every one of us. Do you and your colleagues have a heightened sense of fear following this and this far-left violence we're seeing across the country?
I certainly think there's a heightened sense of awareness by conservatives across the country, by all of us here at the White House. Again, as I said to Monica, many of us were personal friends with Charlie and had involvement with Turning Point before we came and served our government in this way. So certainly it's a very shocking incident, and I think, it's very unfortunate that those of us who work in this movement have to think about violence just for speaking our minds and for supporting President Trump.
And as a follow-up on that, I asked the president last night on Air Force One about this pattern of gender violence we're seeing. Charlie lived with his boyfriend who identifies as trans. We have the Annunciation. The president said that we're looking into violence. Does that mean the FBI is looking into it? And can you give any more clarity on how the administration is viewing this uptick in specifically violence?
It's definitely something worth looking into, and I think anyone who denies that at this point is being willfully ignorant. And the administration is taking it seriously, all causes of violence, and why these people would be driven to such evil and such hatred. And there's probably many answers to that question, but the administration is really focused on all of them. For individual investigations and cases, of course, the FBI and the Department of Justice are leading those. But as for this overall violence we're seeing, the White House and the president's policy team will be leading the charge, and that really begins with designating Antifa as a domestic terror organization. And I can assure you there will be additional actions to come. Sure.
Yes, do you know that Libras are freaking out about this? When you take a look at this guy, these are the same people who mock calling for kneeling, but think dragging a giant cross into a stadium is normal. If Jesus came back, MAGA will boo him off stage for not pledging alliance to Trump. Sometimes when I look at people like this, I wonder if they even reasons. Like, what is this? Calling kneeling was about pushing a narrative tied to Black Lives Matter, not prayer, and plenty of MAGA folks see it as divisive grandstanding, dragging a cross into a stadium that is just wearing faith on your sleeve. Different intent, different context. If Jesus grew up, he will get a standing ovation from the MAGA crowd. That is someone responding to this guy. I think the response is brilliant because he clearly can't even understand why.
That Charlie funeral, man, is just something crazy, man. It's something amazing. I'm not gonna lie. Like, the amount of people that came out to celebrate this man is it's really inspiring, because it just lets you know, like, how loved he was, and like his voice really attracted people. You feel me? That shit is crazy.
Hey, I'ma say it since y'all don't want to say it, man. Enough's enough, bro. Like, you finna go try to put this man funeral, bro? Like, for real? Really, bro? Man, anybody that go to Charlie funeral, you seriously need to be evaluated for mental illness. You do. That's crazy. What are you probing? You don't want people to go and show sympathy for this man and what happened to him? Because y'all be stuck on this empathy word, bro. Do you know what empathy means? Empathy is showing sorrow in a way in which you put yourself in someone else's shoes to get a better understanding as to why this is something that they're dealing with. I can't empathize with someone who is of the alphabet community because I would have to be in a delusion to feel where they're coming from. There is no empathy for that. That's just mental stuff, bro. Like, what's wrong with y'all? But this pro stuff, they're gone way too far. These folks want every single thing.
There are still some people without conscience. They appeared in this location demonstrating. I really wonder why they do this frequently. What is the essence at a funeral to do this? Sometimes doing certain things over and over, it becomes boring. Like, what?
In Trumpian style, he overall stuck to the teleprompter. He had notable deviations when it came to pushing his, new announcement on autism, from saying that Charlie serifs to, deviating about crime around the country. But for him, is that about as disciplined as a Trump that you would see in an address like that?
I think so. And look, went to a great number of rallies for Donald Trump. He wanted this man to get back into office. He held Turning Point USA events that essentially were Trump rallies, but in name of Turning Point under their banner. I think what honestly I'll take away from tonight is watching the weight of a woman, a mother, lose her husband. Most people cannot say they've experienced losing a spouse at this young of an age. And I don't know who we are to suggest how somebody should respond in real time. 1 week after her husband's passing, she went in front of a crowd of 40 to 50,000 people watching all over the world. And she delivered remarks in which she forgave her husband.
I thought it was just remarkable.
A remarkable moment, because in so many ways where America stands in 2025 is how do we respond going forward? And the woman that just lost her husband stood there in front of the world and said, I forgive. And because her Christian faith teaches her to love your enemy and not hate your enemy, and to love those that persecute you. And I think what was stunning about the tension that exists here in 2025 was to listen to.
Yes, this is the reason why Libras are melting down. Some says this was a political campaign in disguise, like church. I don't know why these people do this. They are frightened by what they saw. They thought taking down a legend would end up just like that. They have awakened the movement in such a way that there is no backing down. People who used to hide behind are now coming forward to speak up. You look at the number of people on this venue, there was no space actually. Yeah, it was full. People were everywhere outside. It is frightening to Libras. Like, what is going on? Sometimes you might be doing certain things not knowing the implications of it. They are panicking everywhere as a result of what they are seeing like this. And I'm impressed that a lot of people are awakened. Those coming out to do ridiculous videos to criticize, I don't even care. I just pray that people should see the truth after this.
Level security. We talking Homeland Security for his memorial, wasting people's good tax dollars because this amount of people showed up at 4 a.m.
That shit looks scary. That's too many white people up in there. And then the part I call, he talked about leaders and how people can be leaders. That looked like, what you call that shit when they was rounding them people up to send them off to them camps? And that's what it looks like to me.
Let's talk about the funeral that is giving WWE. This was my first primetime social media funeral, and it is wild to me how overly branded it was. You'll notice that literally anywhere that you can possibly look, there is the Turning Point USA logo. But you'll also notice that there's a lot of branding for Turning Point Action. And Turning Point Action is the political arm of Turning Point. They are a registering to vote organization. They're a political action organization. And they were registering people to vote there. And using the opportunity of someone's funeral to get people like for a political end is so extremely predictable. But it's really the fact that this entire thing looks like the RNC. And it is far more about the announcements of the people who were speaking, the iconic imagery, the pyrotechnics, the curated photo moments like this one that just really is ick. It gives me the major ick.
Libras will always be Libras. You can see the crazy meltdown. Thank you guys for always being there, sharing on my videos. God bless you abundantly.
With all due respect to former President Obama,
is blatant censorship.
Because he says he has a team of fact checkers.
Have the FCC
want them to stop
fooling around with my right to say what I feel.
Americans, it's a part of who we are.
Because that is really something that didn't happen before.
Did anybody else watch The View? Because I think there's some drama, or at the very least some tea in and ready for Joy, Sunny, Anna, and Whoopi to give their perspectives on what happened to Jimmy. And guess what? They said nothing.
I'm going to say one.
Look, there are certain rules of free speech that we must all abide by. But in case anyone needs a refresher, we're going to go over the rules again.
He does not have a right to have a television show where he lies his ass off to the American people.
Well, there are repercussions to spreading lies.
Somebody to get up there, not give a speech about.
And I wish every single person